Welcome back to Beyond Sunday Morning, a sacred space to breathe, question, remember, and reimagine. I'm your host, Nordia, and together we'll explore how the divine shows up in our everyday lives and how we find spirit through our stories, identities, work, and rest. And today we are switching it up yet again on my blue couch with our special guest, Maria. She's a yoga teacher, a sound meditation practitioner with deep expertise in the anatomy of the body. And I've had the honor of knowing Maria since last year when I was doing my yoga teacher training and I took your class and I was like, this girl is dynamic and captivating. I was like, love her. And since then, deeply inspired by her and her presence in the world. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm so happy to have you here.
I am so happy to be here. You have such a nice home.
We are on my couch, not in some studio.
Which I love.
That's meaningful conversations.
Gives it a nice little cozy vibe.
So, as always, we like to begin with a pull from our book, Journey to the Heart. And let's begin with like a deep ending. Let's. One more center. It has our goal for today.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay. Awaken your healing powers. From the traditional to the alternative, healers and healing energy can take many forms. Musicists, hypnotics, chiropractors, medical doctors, herbalists, each may have a touch of healing to bring to us at just the right time and place. But the power to transmit healing energy isn't limited to those who work in hospitals of masters in ancient Chinese art of acupuncture. We have the power to transmit healing energy to others and ourselves, regardless of our profession. We each have the ability to awaken that power and use it in the world around us through our chosen field of work. The man at the deli knows his customers' names and the details of their lives, then greets them with a warm, sincere, and healing smile. The woman who decorates homes takes time to get to know enough about their clients so that the colors and objects in the home reflect where they are on their spiritual paths. Friends and family members heal by using their gifts of intuition and speech to gently encourage and empower their gift of thought to transmit healing messages, and their gift to touch to rub, a snip, a neck, or a shoulder. There are many ways each of us can creatively figure out how to incorporate and channel our healing powers into our daily lives. See your family, sorry, see your favorite healers when you need to. On your path, be open to discovering new healers and combination of practices that work for you, but don't limit who can bring healing into your heart. Remember that you're a healer too. Healing energy is the energy of love. Learn to let it flow through you. Seems very appropriate for me right now. So that's great. Love it. Love it.
Okay. So, Maria, tell us about yourself. Who are you and how do you move through the world?
Okay.
It's a broad question.
I know. So my name is Maria Cristina. I was born and raised in Puerto Rico, and currently I'm a yoga teacher full time, and I love it. It's been 3 years and some change of essentially taking my for fun hobby into now my career, my path, which has been a big transition. I worked in the corporate world for almost 10 years, and the yoga on the side. It's like my sort of path to liberation. And little by little, I realized that I didn't really necessarily want to be in those spaces anymore. And so I moved into being a yoga teacher. But yeah, I move in the world I say in the last year, and that's why I found the reading so resonant. It's been through the energy of love and an expansion of my own capacity of love and what that means. And in the last few months, I've sort of come to this idea that love can show up in so many different ways. And a lot of the ways that I feel like love can show up is respect
Mm.
and is respect for yourself, is respect for others. And also having this sort of attitude that we don't necessarily have to fully understand why people are making the decisions that they are, but still be able to hold respect for them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's something that's been lost. And there's a lot of love underneath that. And there's a lot of self love in that for you to be able to detach from other people's decisions and their views, but still be able to honor that connection through respect, through love. Um, so that's how I've been moving a lot in the world recently. It's sort of just being okay with the unknown as a transitional period in my life, but also being able to show myself respect and show others respect too.
Yeah. How has respect been looking like for you? Maybe like every day, your everyday respect.
Yeah. I think setting boundaries, like with teaching full time, different employers are going to pull you in so many different directions, and setting really clear boundaries as to when you're willing to work, the hours that you're willing to work. Does this actually work with my schedule?
Yeah.
And that's hard,
Mm-hmm.
especially as a, right, talking from the scope of a yoga teacher, like when you first start full time. And I say this to everybody that's starting this journey of becoming a full time teacher, like, have a backup.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have a backup, and it's something that I wish I did. But at the same time, it worked out how it needed to. But I did wish that I started with just like a few classes and not have this expectation that, oh, I'm going to teach full time. I'm going to go to a couple auditions. I'm going to get them all. And then right off the bat, I'm going to get enough classes to live in New York.
Me. Woo!
Yeah. Right? And in that sort of frenzy, you can get really lost in your boundaries and your self respect because they'll start to stretch you and be like, hey, well, you can teach. This is just like a very random example, but you can teach a really late at night Sunday night class, like an 8 p.m. class, and then get up and teach a 6 a.m. class on a Monday morning. Right? Things that, and these could be two different employers, right? But if you don't have that self respect and we're just trying to like tussle it, it's really hard to set a boundary that works for you. And if
Yeah.
you're the type of person that you can do that, you can teach an 8 p.m. and then at 6 a.m., I love that for you. That's not for me.
Mm-hmm.
That's definitely not for me. So building the life of my dreams by mean of respect to myself and to my capacity. Not that I'm not expanding, but there's a balance to it.
Right.
And I feel like we get very lost in that as yoga teachers, because we feel this pressure to like have to get out there and do the thing. And in an essence, we do because it's how we're living.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that's mainly these days, like I'm saying a lot of no's to classes that just don't fit where I want to go, where I want to take my teachings, and also the communities that I want to be.
But like I feel like that's like such a beautiful thing because it releases that scarcity mindset that, if I don't take this opportunity, then the next one isn't going to come.
Yeah.
But you're releasing and saying, no, there's always going to be the next
There's going to be
opportunity.
something else.
Yeah.
And I really, really stand on the idea that if you are putting out love into the world and love to yourself, it will come back. So kind of saying no to the scarcity mindset. I mean, like, it's okay. I'm holding true to my values and being respectful of everybody around me, and good things will sort of flow into life. So yeah, that's what I've been moving in my life recently. And it feels really good.
That's so beautiful, especially with so much happening, the noise
Yes.
and the feeling like we have to like create these nests for ourselves or safety and like if we like consume and consume and consume, then that's safety.
Yep.
But you're in the opposite direction.
Yeah. Actually, that's been my theme for the last 2 weeks in class is like allowing yourself this next like 60 minutes or 75 minutes, however long the class is, to truly come back in.
Mm-hmm.
And it's holding up the mirror. It's not saying that every practice is going to feel good.
Yeah, true.
And if you ask me, I don't think that's the point.
Mm-hmm.
It's to really feel into what's happening in those moments and allow yourself the time to process. Feel like the practice of yoga and also the practice of meditation, they help us build these sort of buffers to reaction. So it's not just like you're in action mode all the time. It gives you this, let's call it like a liminal space in your mind and in your heart where you get to make the decision. And if you were to ask me, when does that happen? Like, when does respect happen? It happens in those sort of buffer moments that my practice has allowed me to build and to grow into so that I then can be like, okay, let's take a deep breath.
Yep.
Where are we? Is this aligned? Is it not? And the same thing I've sort of wanted to transmit to my students with what is going on in the world and everything that is so loud is let's build this buffer so that you have time to really think as to what's going to be your reaction and is it aligned to where you're going and how you're trying to, in my case, respect yourself and respect others.
Mm-hmm.
And sort of still be able to show that camaraderie standing in your own ground.
Yeah.
Singing in your own respect.
And it's hard. It's hard. It's really hard.
It's really hard.
Yeah, it's not easy. So I'm so curious as to, I mean, you've shared a little bit with me outside of the space, but your journey into yoga, like,
Yeah.
what was that moment or moments that led to you into your first yoga practice?
Yeah.
And then sparked to be like, okay, I would like to lead students.
So I've been practicing yoga for many years. My mom's a lifelong yogi, so I really inherited this practice, which feels really special. We're not of Southeast Asian descent. As I mentioned, we're Puerto Rican. And I think this was one of the first yoga classes to ever be in Puerto Rico. My mom found it and she's like, we're doing this. I was 12 years old and I was starting to go through like your preteen turmoil, hurricane, let's call it.
Yeah.
And I had a really bad accident that I ended up needing surgery after and lots of physical therapy for many years. And
Remember that? Okay.
I have metal implants from this accident, and it was a lot of back and forth between what was happening in the turmoil of going through your preteen years and also really learning how to navigate the world in a slightly different way. I had a cast for so long, and then you not really being able to have autonomy over your limbs it's a weird thing. It's a very bizarre space, and a lot was happening in my life, and my mom was like, let's just go to yoga. And we did. And after that, I've been practicing ever since. I then, after I left my parents' house, went to college, really didn't connect with my practice in college at all. I have to be very honest. But as I started going to work in sort of the adult path, and I say that in quotations because it looks very different for everybody, I retook my practice and it was really nice. I found teachers where I was living that I really enjoyed and teachers that for the first time were really trying to infuse Dharma and philosophy into the classes, which was for me was very new. But it was interesting. I kind of like jived with what they were saying, but at the same time, I just really wanted to be the yogi in the front of the room with the perfect floats and the perfect handstands. And I was very much about that asana. And I was like, okay, that's like Dharma and philosophy stuff. It's like, it's fine, but I want to be in 110-degree room, sweating till I can barely breathe, and then lay in shavasana in my own puddle of sweat. And that was the goal.
Right.
Right. And slowly but surely, somewhere in there, it started to change. And I mean, admittedly, I've said this to you. I can't believe I'm saying this in a podcast. But I did my first YTT because I just wanted to be the best in the room. Like I wanted to like have perfect alignment. I wanted to just dive deeper into my practice from a physical standpoint.
Right.
And it's really funny because that's not what's happened. That's
Yeah.
not what happened. I feel like that's one of those definitions of like sometimes the thing that you don't want ends up being the thing that you need. And I generally feel like that was my first YTT. It was like, okay, let's open up the door to everything else that is yoga. And then I was like, oh man, I've actually really, really enjoyed this side of it. And it expanded my own world and my beliefs. And yeah, as for lack of a better term, it sort of started to lift the veil and unblare that there was so much more to learn within the space.
That's so funny because the idea of yoga, I hated it at first. I was like, slow down for what? Like, to save yourself for what? And I remember the first class I took, I cried. Like the Dharma was 5 minutes. First 5 minutes, weeping. And I was like, wow, I didn't want to sit with myself.
Yeah.
The fear of sitting and knowing what was going to come up, you know? And so, okay, I want to shift for a second because I want to see the journey, right? So I know you were a food scientist.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
still,
I still am.
still a food
Yeah. Still a
scientist.
food scientist.
I remember when she told me that she was a food scientist.
Yeah, I'm a food scientist and a research chef.
Yes. Okay. So, and you left the corporate world, right? That transition into yoga. Like, was there anything from the yoga practice that influenced your decision to shift?
Definitely, 100%. So about like 5 years into my corporate job, I think it's when I really started to teach yoga. And it was community classes, super humble, which I loved. And I really just wanted it to continue to solidify all of the information that I just learned in my TT. And for any aspiring yoga teachers, I feel like that's the best thing you can do. Even if it's just your friends, it doesn't matter. Get out there and just practice. At the end of the day, as much as you practice your own physical practice, you also practice your voice as a teacher. You get to practice your teaching methodology. You get to practice looking at people and being able to cue to folks' body in the room and making the class more intentional and all that sort of stuff. Okay, so that said, started teaching as like a side hobby, community classes in a couple different studios. It was great. Then the pandemic hit, and for everybody, things shifted. My job went completely remote. Then I also switched jobs, and I kept my personal practice, but I stopped teaching for a solid 2 years.
Wow.
At that point in my job, things went really, really, really south. Mostly because of me and my mind. Like the job was fine. I just didn't want to do it anymore. And I had switched from research and development, which is where I had spent a lot of years, and I moved into the business aspect of food.
You're like, I saw what's happening really to food, and
and I just didn't want to do it anymore. And honestly, that's where I mentioned earlier, like I didn't have a plan. I hadn't been teaching for 2.5 years, and all of a sudden I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go be a yoga teacher for real now and do this full time. And a lot of it had to also do with my grandma passing away around that same time as me quitting my job and sort of starting to look for different things and what could be a possibility. And I was like, it just reminded me, like, you know what? Life is, we have this great moment that we're living in where we get to have autonomy in our decisions. And we get to dream up a life and actually go for it. Right. So it was this sort of moment where I'm like, all right, if there's going to be a shift, it's now. I'm not going to go into another corporate job. I don't want to look for anything else, even if it's research and development, which I loved with all of my heart. I just didn't. I wanted to try to build something for myself that felt more me. And I was like, okay, let's dive back into yoga. So then I went and I got my 300-hour certification, came back and started auditioning for a lot of different places. Got rejected from a bunch of different places. And you started like, oh, wow, this is going to be really hard. And I had a couple different jobs. I was working as a baker, doing like 5 a.m. shifts.
What?
So I could get by. I was also working front desk at a couple different studios just to stay within the community of yoga and be able to keep connections. And honestly, and I've told you this before, that was one of the best things that could have happened because almost every single job that I have now is some way, shape, or form tied to that initial job where I was cleaning bathrooms, cleaning the floors, checking people in. But I had a really set intention of, I want to connect with other teachers and have these connections so that we can help each other out. And obviously I was starting, so I felt like I had nothing to give.
Right.
But life will pave the way, and slowly but surely these relationships became symbiotic and we started sort of pouring into each other. And I'm a big believer in that. Like, you can't pour from an empty cup, but there is this sort of feeling of service when you pour into other people's cup. And it comes back in very unexpected ways. And I think that's a beautiful thing. Also, like the sort of revolving aspect of respect and love is mixed into that too.
And like you said earlier, like expanding your capacity to love.
Yeah. And to new and different ways of love too. I think we think of love in a very like romanticized way as a society, but taking it out of just the scope of romance, but this sort of love that's so deep that it creates so much compassion. So building from that and sort of taking that thread through. It's been my I mentioned for the last year, but I'd say probably a little bit more than that. But yeah.
Oh, that's so beautiful. So, like, okay, so how do you define yourself? Do you see yourself as like a spiritual person? Do you see yoga as your spiritual philosophy, morals for yourself?
Yes, yes. Yeah. I think yoga didn't necessarily start as something spiritual for me, but it definitely has developed into it. And there's so many threads that are now a part of my everyday life. You mentioned like the part of anatomy. I am a very like why focused person. And so therefore I feel like there's no, this is going to be edited, right?
Yes.
Oh my God. Thank you.
Yeah. Edit parts. That really.
Okay. Let me start that thread again. Ask me the question and then yeah, because I didn't like what you said.
The question
Like,
there.
no.
But
Okay, but I forgot it.
oh, you forgot the question.
Yeah.
Oh.
Blah, 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 blah.
Well, it's about your spiritual practice. Do you see it as spiritual practice?
Okay.
And then you brought up anatomy.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Yeah. That's why that needs to be cut
Well,
out.
no, but you said like like yoga wasn't your like it didn't start off as a spiritual practice, but your anatomy, like the why of
Okay.
anatomy.
Gotcha. All right. Okay. Let's take it back. Roll it back. Okay, to have a spiritual practice, or yes, yoga is part of my spiritual practice. I think one of the things that yoga has taught me so much is how to appreciate the organism that I get to live in. And as a very why focused person and very much in love with learning more about my body as an organism, like how it functions, but also all of these beautiful threads of energy that we have through us. And that's how the spirituality slowly started to kind of sink into me, was like, wait, there are all of these threads that are connected from our physical body into our energetic body.
Mm-hmm.
And the practice of yoga is building more awareness of the sort of energetic field that we have and that surrounds us, and connecting it to the physicality of ourselves. And I think that's just super cool because I want to learn anything that is, how can I learn more about this organism? How can I support myself through the journey of my life, physically and mentally? And yoga has so much of that. And yes, through physicality, but very much so through spirituality and how we care and tender for our minds and the quality of our thoughts.
Mm.
And I love that. I think that that's a beautiful thing. That's it. Oh, fuck.
I love it. I love it. No, because it makes me think of like sometimes like how we like watered down like certain notions that now can also come off as like that you're even being condescending would be like just breathe
Yeah.
and or just take a deep breath or calm down. And it's like, no, there's the nervous system, there's this physiological response that is happening. And I remember even doing breath work. Like I don't take breath work lightly at this point
Mm-hmm.
of knowing. I remember I even did it once, like for 15 minutes and going into it very excited and like, I'm gonna center myself. And I did it and I was sad the rest of the day.
Something needed to come out.
Something needed to come out. I was
Something needed to come
so sad. I was sad.
needed
I was
to come out.
irritated. I was just so down. And I just remember like, damn, I'm not trying to do no breath work again. And then now, my capacity is built, but it just makes me think of all the ways in which, the breath can be taken for granted.
Mm-hmm. And I see something else that, and I feel like you've heard me say this before. Like, I really see, talking about the breath, I see the breath as this bridge that connects us to everything that is around us, so to our immediate field, and it also connects us to our energetic body.
Mm.
And yoga and the sort of study of the spirituality helps you yoke that connection.
Mm-hmm.
So things start to land a little bit deeper, and touching points again on that buffer of reaction starts to build. And it's not like a lag, it's more of like you have this autonomy to decide. Your reaction isn't just going to be something that's going to be kind of wild and expensive. And it does happen every now and then, let's be honest, right? But still being able to take that step back and like, okay, I've built this awareness using my breath as this bridge into that deeper connection of my own spiritual and energetic body.
Mm-hmm. So, right, if you're someone out here that, this language of like energetical field and the bridge, like how do we know what it feels like when we tap into it? Ooh. Like at least for you, like how do you know that when you tap, you're tapping into it?
There's this sense of contentment
Mm.
that comes about. And contentment, I think contentment gets a bad rep
Mm-hmm.
for it being like you're settling for something. And I disagree. Contentment is being able to sit with the good and the bad. Is being able to sort of stand in a point where you can look in both directions and be like, okay, like I can take on the load of what responsibilities I have in front of me, and everything's going to be all right. And knowing that it's not always going to be good,
Mm-hmm.
right? I have the teacher that once told us something very powerful, and it's resonated with me for a long time. To be human is there's two things that will happen in your life for sure. One is that you will die, and another one is that we will suffer. Is to be human and to go through this human experience is that inevitably at some point in your life you will suffer. We will unfortunately lose someone that's close to our heart. There'll be relationships that will be severed. And how we move through the world, knowing that these things are still at some point going to happen, how do we still move with this sort of holding on and grabbing to ourselves where we feel ourselves as a resource and a support and still being able to hold space for the people that are around us in our lives. And that doesn't have to be in like a healing aspect of holding space, but holding space for your sister. We were talking about sisters earlier. Holding space for your significant other, holding space for your friends. Like that sort of contempt, even though they're telling you something that isn't good. They're telling you, hey, I had a horrible day. They're going through it. And being able to hold space for them in that moment, even if it's a point where you know they're going through it, having that enough structure in your own self to have that contentment of, okay, even when things aren't good, I can still hold it. And it doesn't feel like I'm going to crumble into pieces.
It's like it's like, this is it. Yeah. Which I don't think we've, as a society, have held that it is of it, or at least for me, I've witnessed how yoga has, like, I've leveraged it as a tool to build my capacity because, I mean, as I said earlier, like if something unpleasant happens or I'm going through it, I would like run to my therapist, like run, like I'll be like email, we need to meet today
Yeah.
type of thing. And, her doing her job, it's like, okay, I will hold space for you. This is what you need. But being able to hold your emotions in a way, not demonize them, not to rush through them, and to know that you can ride the wave.
Exactly. Right.
And it took me a long time to know that you can make it through. And I read this book of adults of
Feeling the things.
Yeah, like
Feeling the things. It's not like shunning them, like you're still feeling it, but holding that space for yourself and for the people that you want to. Not everybody gets
right.
Like,
because I was reading a book and it was just sharing how like growing up, we're often like ridiculed even more when we're like crying. So we don't even finish the cry. You're like, shh,
enough.
and then you haven't even experienced what it's like to get over the crying period. And so at least in the book, it was like, you have to, we're conditioned to not feel the entirety of our emotions because we stop as soon as we feel it coming.
Yeah.
And I know that I've realized that in yoga, like just breathe, like I hate to say it, just breathe, but it's not that. Or take your inhale, hold it, exhale, release, hold it, and being with that. So it's so interesting how we've used certain mechanisms, but we've watered it down. So like, it's like, do we get to really experience?
I think contentment is part of gifting yourself that full experience.
Yeah.
Knowing that it might not be incredibly joyful. And things that I've heard about yoga recently that pertains to this is like, oh, yoga feels so good. And it's like, yoga can feel so good, but I would invite you into a practice of yoga that is just about feeling rather than you're already putting the expectation on it that it must feel good because you're going at it with this mentality when the practice and the technology was not developed for that. Right. And it was just developed to feel. And there's ways that we can also invite more energetic practices or more like grounding practices into it. And you can sort of balance yourself with it. Yes, love that. But we have to still feel and give ourselves our opportunity to just feel without the tag, without the expectation of society. And without even your own afflictions.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the hardest part. It's like, how do I feel without the afflictions and the stereotypes of my own self?
Mm-hmm.
And that's also where contentment comes in. It's
Yeah.
sort of like knowing, okay, these things will be here because this is just the mind, the inner workings of the mind, and we can work through that, but that takes a really long time. So how can I sustainably hold myself while working through it and still acknowledging that there are afflictions of my heart and there are afflictions of my heart too. So it's sort of this ebb and flow. Contentment feels like a nice place where I can hold it and feel it.
Yeah. I think that's really powerful to know that you can choose in that container how you want to respond.
It doesn't always work. You could talk to my boyfriend. He's probably gonna read this like, girl. But right, like we keep trying, we keep practicing. That's why it's called a practice. As like cheesy as it sounds, but that's why it's called a practice. And that's how I currently am moving through the world and how I am currently practicing my practice off the mat.
Mm.
Um Transitions are always slippery.
Mm-hmm.
It's a slippery slope. So giving yourself that grace.
Mm. Is there anything coming up for you? I feel like I haven't particular questions for you at this point, but now I'm just like, wow, you just got me my feels. Contentment. I'm like, contentment? Yes. I love it. Okay, so outside of yoga, what brings you back to the sacred moments of every day?
Ooh, simple. Like walks to and from the studio. I really,
You walk?
yeah, I love it. Those walks after a class, it's so nice. It's such a nice moment to come back and just to be,
Mm-hmm.
which is so nice. Walking my dogs, just anything that clears energy. Oh, a hot bath is always nice. And also nurturing my body in a way that feels supportive for me. And I like to make a lot of my own food at home, which is great. I meal prep for me and my boyfriend every week. And it's a nice way that I feel like supports me.
Mhm.
And I also just love to cook. I also a private chef on the side. So I have a couple families that I prepare meals for every week. Yep. And I go and I make all of the meals for the week, set their fridge up, and that's it. I love it. It's fun. It's a nice way. It's another way of nurturing folks that's not just in the space of yoga and specifically of yoga asana, where you're being nurtured or you're being the nurturer. In my case, I'm being nurtured. And it just feels really nice. It's nice to use my knowledge to support people. And I think that's also one of the things I love so much about yoga. And in the dichotomy, not dichotomy, the dynamic of yoga where you are giving, but there's also this reciprocal, if it's the right place and it feels aligned with your teaching methodology and what you're doing, and the community feels aligned with you too, it can feel like such a nice exchange of energy to teach. Um, and just to share what I've learned in the last 20 something years of practicing yoga,
Mm.
which I think is just like a nice thing. It also reverts back to how humans love to interact, right? This sort of like exchange
Mhm.
in Puerto Rico. We have a word for it. It's called trueque. And trueque is an exchange that doesn't necessarily involve money.
Mhm.
So, like you could have traded, I'm gonna make this up, but like let's say we're trading plants, right? Like that's trueque. We're doing an exchange. But it could also mean energetic, which is kind of like a fun and how I like to see yoga is in that space of trueque, like that nice like exchange of energy.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love that. So how do you create that bridge so that you don't overly extend?
Boundaries.
Okay.
Boundaries as to where you're willing to teach and how you can connect with the community. To me, that's really important. I know some folks just teach and that's great. I love that for you, but I really like to feel connected to the people in the room in any way, shape, or form. And honestly, it's a nice wait, what was the question? Fuck.
Just how you bridge, take care of your energy.
Oh, like energy. Wait.
Like how do you take care of your energy in your room or just not overextending yourself?
Okay. So respecting my boundaries as to like places, times that I am willing and open to teach, and just also acknowledging my own cycles and being like, hey, what am I willing to actually do that's gonna feel good? An example. Oh my God, super early morning classes. I've done it. I'm not the person for it. It just feels so taxing. And you can be in the right place with the right people, but it still feels very taxing for me. I like a slow morning. I like to dedicate the first few moments of the day to me, to sort of preparing my body before I go out into the world.
Yeah.
And it's simple, small rituals. It doesn't have to be this super extensive list of self-care items, but things that just feel supportive to you. And that's also kind of a fun exploration is like what feels supportive to you because there are so many practices out there in the world, which can make it a little hazy and confusing to find what is for you. But I think if you sort of look at it with a mindset of curiosity, where you're like, okay, let's try something out and isolate it. You're trying that one thing for a month and doing it. For example, something that I've added into my practice that feels really supportive is for my physicality, scraping my tongue.
I love scraping your tongue.
10 out of 10. For me, right? For me, I'm not saying that that's for everybody, but I'm saying for me, I've noticed a really big difference. Oiling my nostrils in the morning and at night. Oh yeah, I'm both stuff. It's called nasia oil. And you essentially like coat your nostrils and your sinus channels at night before you go to bed. And then in the morning to protect them, it's sort of like a oil coating before you go out into the world. Oh. And like it sounds any oil? No. It's a special oil that is meant to be consumed and actually be put in your nose. Yeah. And it comes from Ayurveda. And it's part of dinacharyas, which are like daily rituals that you do. And I've tried a few of them. These are the two that I've stuck that I feel like make a big difference, and that it is as much physical as it is energetically. Like when I scrape my tongue, and it's this sort of like, hey, I'm kind of shaving off parts of me that I no longer need. And it is the ritual of the physical act of doing it, but it very quickly bridges into 100% your energetic body and how you're cleansing your energy and how you're presenting yourself in the world.
I love oil pulling.
Yeah. So Nasya oil is another way of doing oil pull. Oil pull, you can do like the switch in your mouth. And there's also like I think it's like called the amaranya oil that you can do throughout different parts of your body. I really like the Nasya oil for my nose. It's a little uncomfortable at first.
Like you're dripping it in your nose?
Mm-hmm.
You're taking a drip where you pop your head back.
Like a healthy, we're not, as you move in your practice, I started with like a couple drops in each nostril. And as I move, I'm like a full in each nose. Let's go. Coat that baby up.
Wait, I'm gonna use it. I love that actually. I love it. Yes. All right, 100%.
And then also plus in the wintertime, I get really dry. It helps me sort of navigate a world that I didn't grow up in.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's been this kind of like nice, oh, this supports my physicality, but it just makes me feel very content and settled in myself when I go out into the world and I've already done something for me.
It's like your heart.
It is. It is. And those little rituals do the thing. And it doesn't have to be anything complex, or if you're not into Ayurveda, if you don't want to look into like all the different things and avenues that you can go into, you can make the regular your cleansing ritual. You can make brushing your teeth your daily ritual, or washing your face. Like even washing my hands after class is really important. I feel like that is an energetic cleanse.
Mm.
And the things that we put a lot of faith behind, notice how it makes you feel.
Mm.
And these little things can build up to those supportive moments throughout the day where it's not just one thing. It's all of these little moments that you are taking for yourself and owning to protect your energy and then be able to show up authentically in the world.
Mm.
So another example of how like the yoga goes from the physical to the energetic, and there's sort of this weaving pattern all throughout it. It's not just about the asana. I wish I could go back and tell 21-year-old me that, but she's busy in a hot room sweating it out. I'm gonna let her. I'm gonna let her stay there for a
I
little.
love hot yoga class. That's what I did. I'm working it out. Yeah. So my last question, I just have one last question. Okay, so if our lives are, a living prayer that we're constantly shaping, breathing, becoming, what would you say is your living prayer in this season?
Ooh. We've talked a little about this, but I think like the reconciliation of all of those small points throughout the day, making an effort to make moments of connection with the people that are around me and meaning that connection, being present in that connection. I also think moments of gratitude throughout the day.
Mhm.
Recently, I've had this, whenever I start my self practice, I will rock my hips forward and back. And it has started to feel as this moment where I'm asking my body to re-engage with the language that we communicate and how we connect. And it feels really nice. And it sounds silly that like a rock of the hips can become that much of like that moment of connection. But it's how things make you feel. It's how you define them and how you find support in them. And that can be a very deeply personal thing, right? Like it doesn't, again, it just, the world has gotten kind of away with the whole self care thing. But most of the things I do that are a living prayer are all free 99.
Mm-hmm.
And it all has to do with how I want to support me and the people around me and continuing to show up authentically with respect to me and others, knowing that we're not going to agree all the time,
Mm-hmm.
but we can still hold each other.
Mm-hmm.
We can still stand in our own respect and our own contentment and be there for each other. Especially in a world that feels so polarizing right now. That's something that I'm really holding on to. And if I want to see more of it, then I'm going to put more of my awareness into that and more of my intention into that, into those little prayers of acceptance and connection and presence. So yeah, that was a good question.
So there you have it, y'all. Maria, our favorite person in the world. Thank you so much for stopping by my book couch and chatting with me.
Of course.
Till next time, friends, may you breathe deeper, may you connect deeper, and may you just be with yourself deeper. Bye.
Bye.
Uh, okay, hi, we're back with a weekly practice that you can take with you into your week and also add to your spiritual toolbox that you can lean on. And so Maria is going to lead us through a practice. And
Yeah. All right. We're going to do a little alternate nostril breath, Nadi Shodhana Pranayam. I love this practice. I feel like it helps me, especially when I feel a little bit like disjointed and my thoughts or emotions can be all over the place. It invites everything back in and invites the awareness to come into the energetic body a little bit more. So if you're not already there, take a comfortable seat. Yeah. You feel supported. We're going to use our dominant hand for this. Okay. Creating a mudra. Your thumb's going to come to the outside of your right nostril. Peace fingers can either come to the bridge of your nose or your third eye. And ring and pinky finger are going to come to the outside of your left nostril. Okay. Close the right nostril. Exhale through the left. Invite a breath in through the left. Close the left nostril. Exhale through the right. In breath through the right. Close. Exhale left. And breath left. Close out, breath right. Take a few more at your own pace. Gonna end with an exhale on the left. Take your time, no rush. Once you're there, gently release your mudra. Bring your hands down to the left. Allow your breath to just be here. Noticing its natural cadence and rhythm. Watching the breath, seeing where it wants to go. As you feel ready, you flutter your eyes open. Gently inviting yourself back into this room. Okay. Oh, I thought of another one that I actually really like. Can we do two? Okay. So this practice is box breath. We're going to go in for a count of 4, hold for 2, exhale for 4, and then hold on empty for 2. Okay. This is also a pranayam practice that I invite folks into when we start classes, especially like it's a yin class or a floating yin. I feel like it's a nice landing and sort of it gathers and helps you land deeper into your breath and into that bridge that we spoke about between your breath and your body. Okay, so when you're ready, take a comfortable seat. Can roll the shoulders up and back, hearts open. Can close your eyes here. And tune into your breath. Noticing as the air comes in and out of the nose. Invite a soft breath in. And a breath out, let it go. Inhale for 4, 3, 2, and 1. Hold for 2. Exhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold on empty for 2. In breath 4, 3, 2, and 1. Hold for 2, levitating the breath. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold and empty for 2. In breath, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold for 2. Feel into the expansion of the heart. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold on empty for 2. Soft breath in. And a soft breath out, following all the way down to land. Take your time to come back.
Oh my God, I needed that. All right, friends. Thank you. And may this practice support you this